Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Foreign news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please let's go to the headlines.
On this Saturday night, the costs of war. The U.S. military ramps up attacks and deploys reinforcements to weaken Iran's stranglehold on the crucial Strait of Hormuz.
And the conventional capabilities of the United States is clashing with the economic realities of warfare.
Plus, how the war is generating billions for government coffers in Canada and why consumers are paying the price. A legal dispute over Indigenous identity, the lawsuit against an expert in debunking false heritage claims. And watch your heart.
People that live remotely can have this. They can get in touch with their cardiologist really easily.
Canadian researchers reveal how your smartwatch could save your life.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Iran launching its latest round of missiles targeting Israel and other Gulf states. As the war enters its fourth week, the Middle East and the global economy are paying a heavy price.
David Muir, ABC's World News Tonight, America's most watched newscast. Now streaming same day with all the breaking news of the day on Disney Plus. Most watched, most trusted. Now on Disney Plus every night.
Tonight, the war intensifies, with Iran reportedly attempting to strike an American base thousands of miles away. A major airline now canceling flights over soaring fuel prices, and President Trump threatening to send ICE agents to fix airport security delays. First, the war with Iran entering its fourth week. U.S. and Israeli forces battering multiple targets, including a nuclear site. Iran answering back, striking near one of Israel's nuclear facilities, and reportedly launching ballistic missiles toward a joint U.S.-UK base in the Indian Ocean. More U.S. Marines on their way to the region as 2 American soldiers killed in Kuwait are remembered back home in Iowa. Also tonight, the war sending fuel prices soaring, gas averaging close to $4 a gallon, new warnings against price gouging, and the airline now cutting flights as its fuel costs go up. The ongoing fallout of the partial government shutdown, security lines snaking through airports, delays lasting hours as more unpaid TSA officers call out, senators still at odds over funding for Homeland Security, and now President Trump threatening to send ICE agents to airports to straighten out the delays. Catastrophic flooding in Hawaii, the worst in decades, rising waters lifting homes and cars, thousands evacuated, hundreds rescued. The governor activating the National Guard, plus the record heat in the West and wildfire dangers in the Rockies and Plains. Remembering Robert Mueller, who rebuilt the FBI after 9/11 and who later investigated President Trump and Russian interference in the 2016 election. The president reacting with harsh words, what he posted after learning of Mueller's death. The newly released video of Justin Timberlake showing the pop star stopped by police and the field sobriety test before being booked for that 2024 DWI. A record-breaking crowd as K-pop sensation BTS returns to the stage. And America Strong tonight, the dog nobody wanted finds a home with the men and women in blue.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is
Bring in Borders are Tom Holman. Great to have you with us, Tom. What did you think of all that on the Hill today with regard to the hearing for Markwayne Mullin?
Look, I think he did fine. And bottom line is, Markwayne Mullin's the right guy at the right time in the right position. Fully support him. I've talked to Markwayne every day, several times a day, ever since President Trump announced his nomination. So, he gets it. He's already looking at solutions. If he actually gets the job, he's looking at solutions for CBP and ICE and FEMA. He's already working. Even though he's not in that position yet, he gets what needs to be fixed. We have plain conversations. He welcomes my judgment. I've been speaking to the head of ICE, the head of CBP. They're all excited that this man will be the next Secretary of Homeland Security so we can keep moving the president's mission forward.
One of the questions for him was, how will you be different from Kristi Noem? What would your answer be to that, knowing both of them?
I think he's going to focus. I don't think it's. I don't know what. I can't put down what the difference is. I can tell you that he's focused on the mission. He has spoken to leadership within the DHS already. He's heard their ideas. He's got to speak to a few more, but he's hearing what they think the issues are. How can we fix it? He's counting on the experts who's done this job for decades to advise them on the next steps to take, and that's big. And that he's coming. He don't know the immigration game very well, but he's counting on people with 30, 40 years experience to guide him away. So I wouldn't point that out as a difference. I just point that out that is the way it should be. As a secretary, counting on those who've done this for decades and listen to their past conflicts, listen to what works, what doesn't work. For instance, I've worked for 6 different presidents. I've seen hundreds of policies come and go. I know what policies work, what policies don't, and he wants to know that. So that's important to the men and women who wear that badge and gun, that he's sharing their voices.
So it's clear, a lot of things changed. It was very different when you came into Minnesota. You sort of calmed things down there. We didn't see the kind of videos that we had seen in the past. And then you came forward with a letter that you wrote yesterday to Susan Collins and Katie Britt, the senators from Maine and Alabama. And
tonight on The Wrap, the UK keeps its distance. The Foreign Secretary keeps the US and Israeli action at arm's length. That's despite the UK giving America the use of some British bases to strike Iranian sites threatening shipping in the Strait of Hormuz.
We will provide defensive support against these reckless Iranian threats. But we have not been and we continue not to be involved in offensive action.
Elmer assures the president of Cyprus that Aria Akrotiri is out of bounds to the US as the war threatens the holiday island and other tourism destinations in the Gulf. Israel claims Iran fired a weapon that could travel around 2,500 miles. That means it could reach London, Paris or Berlin. Also tonight, as students still before vaccination, businesses in Canterbury are hoping for an end to the outbreak, which they describe as having an effect similar to the COVID lockdown. We discuss the day's biggest stories with Rosie Holt and Duncan Barnes. Plus, the best look at the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers, including this from stars can now reach London. Israel warns Star. Good evening. Welcome, Rosie and Duncan. The Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has accused Iran of a reckless attempt to hijack the global economy, but she made clear that the UK is not involved in offensive action against Iran and put distance between herself and the White House, saying she wanted a swift resolution to the war. From the Foreign Secretary there, Rosie.
Yes, I'm glad she says she's against offensive action, because I think the whole of the country feels like that. I think a lot of us aren't really sure why this war was started in the first place.
A dramatic escalation in the Iran war. Tehran fires missiles at the remote US-UK base on Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. One intercepted, another failing mid-flight. A stark signal that Tehran is willing to strike far beyond the Gulf as the conflict widens. We're also going to talk about mixed signals from Washington. President Donald Trump says the U.S. may be ready to wind down its war efforts, but it doesn't look that way. I'm Michael Oku in Berlin. This is DW News. The United Kingdom has condemned an attempted attack by Iran on a joint US-UK military.
Today, Labor cruises to victory in the South Australian election as One Nation leapfrogs the Liberal Party.
A lot of Liberal voters going to One Nation, but I also think we saw a lot of Liberal voters coming to Labor.
and then we saw Labor voters going to One Nation.
Top-end communities brace for more flooding as tropical cyclone Narelle travels over the NT. More missile fire exchanged between Israel and Iran as attacks intensify on nuclear facilities.
Push inside, turn on, shoot, on sight!
And heartbreak for the Matildas. Australia defeated 1-0 to Japan at the Asian Cup final. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Melissa McKay. The South Australian election has laid bare a major shift in voting in the state. While Labor secured an historic win, it was also marked by a One Nation advance. Our reporter Stephanie Richards is in Adelaide for us today. Hi there, Stephanie. So just take us through how significant this election result is for the rest of the country.
Well, now we're seeing one of the most lopsided election results in Australian political history, certainly one of the most lopsided results in South Australian political history. Just over 50% of the votes have been counted, and Labor has won 32 seats of the 47-seat lower house. That's its biggest victory in Labor South Australia.
Right? Africa News. The news.
As Sudan celebrated the first day of Eid on Friday, displaced people at North Darfur's Tawila camp gathered for prayers. Most of those here fled the state capital El Fasher when it was seized by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces in October. For them, the holiday brings no relief. How can we celebrate Eid when our country is devastated? How can we experience the Eid atmosphere when our hearts are heavy with sorrow? We're deeply saddened because we've lost so many people. May God grant us patience. Where is Eid? We lost all our family in the shelling of Al Fasher. We can't comprehend everything that has happened. This Eid is sad, as if it isn't Eid at all. There are no families left. The RSF capture of Al Fasher was marked by horrific violence as the militants drove out the Sudanese armed forces. Tens of thousands of residents were reportedly executed in what rights groups have called a genocidal slaughter. Those who managed to escape fled to Tawila. We call on humanitarian organizations to support the people here, to provide shelter and essential supplies, to care for our children and to meet their needs. We also ask them to recognize that women face particular challenges and that we urgently need services tailored to us. Tawila is now home to more than 1 million displaced people, but with growing needs and diminishing funding, aid groups is struggling to respond. The sprawling network of camps is facing a shortage of medical supplies, adequate food, and safe drinking water. Twitter boss Elon Musk misled shareholders in an effort to drive down the company's stock price as he readied to buy the social media platform in 2022. That was the verdict of a federal...
This is Asia Now.
It's 11 a.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 8:30 in New Delhi, and 10 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Grace Shin, and at this hour, U.S. President Donald Trump threatens to obliterate Iran's power plants if the Strait of Hormuz is not reopened within 48 hours, marking a sharp escalation. That is just a day after he spoke about winding down the war. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vows to continue strikes on Iran after missile attacks hit southern Israel. Dozens injured in Dimona and Iran near Israel's main nuclear research site in what Tehran says is retaliation for earlier strikes on its nuclear sites. The UK denounces what it calls Iran's reckless attacks after ballistic missiles were fired towards a joint US-UK military base in the Indian Ocean. Israel warns Tehran's missiles can now reach major European capitals. U.S. President Donald Trump is giving Iran an ultimatum. He has demanded Tehran fully reopen the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours or face American strikes on its power plants. Mr. Trump wrote on his platform Truth Social that U.S. forces will obliterate Iranian power plants, starting with the country's largest. Iran was quick in its response. Fars news agency carried a statement from the Iranian military threatening to hit the region's energy, IT, and desalination infrastructure, all in response to any U.S. strikes on Iranian energy facilities. The escalating fighting has closed the Strait of Hormuz, disrupting the passage of around 20% of oil and gas shipments. It has removed as many as 400 million barrels, or about 4 days' worth of supply, from the global market, triggering price raises.
West Bank up against the wall on France 24.
Hello, this is Night Watch here on France 24. Here are the top stories. Over 100 people were injured after Iranian missile strikes rained down on the southern parts of the country, one hitting an area close to the country's main nuclear facility. The attack follows a strike on the Natanz nuclear facility in Iran by U.S. forces on Friday. The U.S. military declares it's taken out an Iranian bunker housing weapons threatening oil and gas shipments in the Strait of Hormuz. It comes amid an effective blockade by Iran on the vital waterway, triggering a surge in oil prices. And Robert Mueller dies at the age of 81. The former FBI chief and special counsel oversaw the investigation into alleged ties between Russia and Donald Trump. The U.S. president says he's glad Mueller is dead.
This is DW News, and these are our top stories. Iranian missile strikes on 2 towns in southern Israel have wounded more than 100 people. The strikes on Dimona and Arad are the closest Iranian strikes to Israel's main nuclear facility yet, less than 15 kilometers away. Tehran said it was responding to earlier Israeli and US strikes on its nuclear complex in Natanz. Israel is widely believed to be the only country in the region to possess nuclear weapons, though their existence has never been confirmed or denied. The US military says Iran's ability to threaten the Strait of Hormuz has been degraded after this week's strikes. Admiral Brad Cooper said US warplanes dropped multiple 5,000-pound bombs on underground coastal facilities storing anti-ship missiles and mobile missile launchers. The standoff in the strait has sent crude oil prices soaring. Thousands of people celebrated the spring equinox, when day and night are of equal length and winter officially ends, at Mexico's Pyramid of the Sun in the ancient city of Teotihuacan. Pilgrims dressed in white arrived early to catch the first glimpses of the sun's rays over the eastern mountains.
Thank you for watching. I'm Shakil 5858. I hope you will come again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.